Alexa, how many downloads for Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
From adweek.com. Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week, according to the publisher.
Well, what do you know? There's a lot of you out there listening, and we appreciate it. Don't forget to spread the word. Like and share Jim and Bill, It's Another Day. And once again, thanks for listening. Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I would be the other guy on the other side of the microphone, Bill Knight.
So last night, at 8 o'clock Eastern time, here in the United States, the big interview with Elon Musk and Donald Trump was supposed to take place. And I kept going to the X site, and they said it's delayed, system crashed. They had, believe it or not, an attack on the system. I think they called it a DDoS attack. Let me see whether I can. It's DDoS. And Catherine Herridge wrote on X, DDoS is a distributed denial of service attack. It's a cyber attack designed to cripple a network. And they did last night for a while, but I guess Musk must have an entire crew of people who are working behind the scenes. They got it back up and going about 8:30, 8:35. And I thought it would be a video, interview back and forth.
Mm-hmm. It was live.
It was a audio stream. And Donald Trump and Elon Musk sounded like two friends having coffee, and that you were the third person sitting there listening to their conversation. It was really fascinating. And, except for one thing, Bill, and you'll notice it when I play this clip from it. Donald Trump, his audio wasn't perfect, so it sounded to a little bit. You can hear a sibilance in his
watery, is what you're saying.
Well, if he wore dentures, you'd say his dentures were loose. But in all reality, he sounded it was understanding how the technology works. You realize that there are delays, and there's sometimes the system is overwhelmed. They had, at the start of the thing, I think when they said it crashed, over 11 million people listening at one time trying to access it. And I think that it had, when it was over last night, it was the largest live broadcast ever on the internet. They had more people listening to that broadcast last night than listening to any of the other media combined, they said. Think about that for a second.
Well, if they had 11 million, you could take all the other media combined and multiply it by, I don't know, 8, 9, and still not hit the number, because, we assume the media is just, everybody. Really, the numbers aren't that big for.
Well, you think about when they say all the other media combined, they're talking about NBC, CBS, ABC. They're talking about CNN, Fox. If you take all of their numbers, put them all together in a nice little compact total, and they wouldn't have been as big as the number of people globally listening to that interview. And by the way, the EU did their very best to shut that down. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that, but the fact that someone tried to hack it. There's only 3 places that I really know that could do a hack like that: Russia, China, and this other country called the United States of America, which could probably do the best job hacking it. So that means Elon's system, which they probably thought was the old system, is a new system that's bigger than the government's supercomputers, deep beneath the White House.
The figures, by the way, you're going to hear a bunch of different totals. You're going to hear from 11 million to 19 million. You'll hear as low as 1.2 million if they're trying to make it seem like, it wasn't that big. No, it was gigantic, okay? The Harris campaign is beside itself right now. They're trying desperately to make it sound like it wasn't a big deal. And by the way, Elon said, "Hey, I offered the same thing to Kamala, and she never got back to us. Never."
Now, is she going to come back and say, "Hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you, and I want to do this interview"? And then would he? Because if I were Elon, I'd say, "You had your chance, biatch. Forget about it. You're not going to get it now."
No, in all honesty, I think she's petrified to being interviewed because I think she knows of her limits, and I think, Bill, she is somebody who doesn't think quick on her feet. She's somebody who hasn't got the right. You heard her talk about when Tim Holt said, not Tim Holt, what's his name?
Lester?
No, Lester. Yeah, thank you. When Tim Holt was, I think, a Western movie star.
Lester Holt, yeah.
When Lester Holt said, "Well, you've never been to the border," and she said, "Well, I've never been to Europe either." I don't understand your question. It was a dumb answer, and I think that's an indication of how she thinks on her feet, and she doesn't think very quickly. I got a little
clip. She doesn't do anything on her feet.
I got a little clip of what happened last night. This is between President Trump and Elon Musk, and they're talking about the assassination attempt and, what happened at the moment he was actually shot. It was, I kind of pick it up. It's about 5 minutes long, but it's interesting. Listen.
Because it went at the right angle, and, it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody you have instances like this or like a lot less than this where you feel it's a surreal situation, and I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear, and because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, "Bullets, bullets!" Get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly, and we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down, so I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle, so that was the miracle. That was... Yeah. For those people that don't believe in God, I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to, I'm a believer. Now I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect angle. And all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart even more
maybe
now.
It's a sign. Maybe that's a sign.
It's an immigration sign.
You highlighted a serious issue, and at that moment, the bullet missed your, hit your ear, but missed your head.
The amazing thing is that the sign, I said, bring down that sign on immigration, and it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good, and after that it was going to be a disaster no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was exactly at this shooter. A very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey, a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great Trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, "I'd like to give the family some kind of help." And I said, "That's great." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I don't mind at all." And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife. And, she said, "This is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back," which is a nice thing for somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great. And we raised a lot of money for them and for two other gentlemen who are unbelievable people also. They were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them, equally. And we thought, my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me. I said, how many people were killed? Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous, thousands and thousands of people. And there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, how many people have been killed? Because I knew there were other shots being fired. And they said, we don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt. And I have to give the Secret Service a sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper, because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130. But he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium, and he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot more people could have been badly hurt and killed. So I have to take my hat off to him, because that's also a surreal. You know, he's been with them for 23 years, and he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. Obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which I assume you have to have in that particular work. But he took aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range, one bullet. That didn't happen because the shooter had a lot of bullets. He had a lot of cartridges up there with him.
Donald Trump, just a piece of their very long interview. And they talked, by the way, Bill, about everything. You know.
Well, on that piece right there, I mean, Trump had a lot to talk about, and all Elon could do is go,
yeah. Well,
we didn't hear.
But you know, he listened like a good interviewer. He wasn't trying to constantly interject himself. He would ask a question, and Trump, never had a problem talking. He just he sometimes goes on longer than he has to, but that to me says an active mind, an enthusiastic mind, somebody who has a lot to say about stuff, and he did last night. Go ahead, Bill. I think you wanted to see.
Well, I was just going to say, I didn't see or hear the interview last night. I was aware of it, and then I thought this morning, well, wait a minute, the internet got shut down, and I'm getting to a point here, and maybe I was off in my days because we talked earlier. And I'm looking at my phone because I go by that. I get a lot of messages. Mm-hmm. I get messages from both sides of the aisle, let alone you and my other personal friends that get to me. But I'm noticing here that my phone actually, as far as messages, and I haven't gotten any today, and I didn't get any overnight. It shut down last night at 7:22. The last thing I got was from Trump. I'm going to do... I'm addressing the nation with Elon Musk. That came in at 7:22, and that was the end of it.
I think it wouldn't be wrong to think that maybe they were trying to mess with every aspect of...
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they were trying desperately to keep people from finding that interview, and also they tried desperately to keep the interview from happening altogether. It didn't work. He got out.
Yeah, I mean, because it was the accident. Now, you couldn't have said that about it 2 years or 3 years ago, but you can say now it's a formidable force. But they know that Elon's got a wall there now in front of them, and they're going to sit there and find a way to break it down because Trump is going to go to the X again, and the United States or the EU or whoever doesn't want to get that voice out, and there's a cabal, because I don't know how else to say it. There is a force at play, and we know that they're involved, and they don't care. They want to suppress everything that's going on, and I lamented earlier, before we started recording, that the fix is in, and they know they're lying. We know they're lying. but they're spreading this venom anyway because they want you to know that this is the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the lady, just to shift a gear here. The lady, remember back from Mesa, that sat there and said, oh, wait a minute. Whoa. I've been ordered to destroy all this stuff. I'm going to copy it, let people know what really happened here.
Yeah.
Well, the left and lefty courts.
Are you talking about
found her,
Peters?
Peters, yes.
Tina Peters, yeah.
Yeah, Tina Peters. And she's found guilty out of 7 of 10 charges that they threw at her.
They will do everything they can to stop good people from showing the truth.
Tulsi Gabbard, they went after her. As a matter of fact, Biden put her on a terror watch list. Now she's fighting that and say she's bringing up charges.
I got a piece of audio from Tulsi explaining everything. Listen.
You know, the closest word that I could think of that can begin to describe what I felt and what I feel in learning that actually, according to these whistleblowers, that I am on this Quiet Skies list, that my own government, my president, my commander-in-chief is targeting me as a potential domestic terrorist. The closest word that comes to mind is a complete sense of betrayal. And it's betrayal because I, like so many Americans, enlisted because of the Islamist terrorist attacks on 9/11, enlisted to serve in our country's military, to ensure the safety, security, and freedom of the American people, to go after and defeat and destroy those Islamist terrorists who continue to pose the greatest short and long-term threat to us, to our security, and to our freedom. And so now, after serving over 21 years and continuing to serve in our nation's military, my own government has labeled and is targeting me directly now as a domestic terrorist, as they are many others. I'm not alone in this. Of course, this list is not being made public, but we can look to what the Biden-Harris administration has done in multiple cases of how they have there have been leaked conversations, leaked files, leaked documents, and even statements they've made in public saying that this threat of domestic terrorism and extremism is so great, and often very likely it is those in the military or military veterans who are these potential threats here at home. It is more than a slap in the face. It's more than a punch in the gut. It is a complete betrayal coming from our own government that they are using our taxpayer dollars, our resources. They are using people like the air marshals as weapons and pawns to target their political opponents. And that's really what this is all about. As a person, I feel, not only for myself, but for my brothers and sisters in uniform, for those who have literally put their lives on the line to go after and defeat those terrorists who attacked us on 9/11, those who continue to pose a threat to us today, and all of that to have our own government come and point and set their sights on us and set their targets on us, saying that, no, actually, we are the domestic terrorists. Why? Of course, there's no explanation given, which is why we are taking legal recourse, why I'm so grateful for these whistleblowers and having the courage to stand up and present the evidence and proof, because, these secret lists, there are many of them. Quiet Skies is one of them. There are others that have occurred ever since 9/11 with the Patriot Act, weaponizing these institutions against Americans. All of these secret lists, there's no recourse. There's no way to know truly if you're on the list, how to get off the list, why you're on the list, why my own government is seeing me as a domestic terrorist. I can't tell you why, but I can make some assumptions based on the record of this administration that this is yet another tool they are using against their political opponents. Yeah. Obviously, I've been very outspoken about the dangers of the Biden-Harris administration to our democracy and to our freedom and to our national security. And this is what happens as a result.
Using your Tulsi Gabbard, what's interesting is they call it Quiet Skies. I love it. Make it so gentle. They make it sound like a slogan for United Airlines or something. Quiet skies.
Fly the quiet skies.
It's the terror watch list. Yeah. It's the terror watch list, okay? And she's on it. Now, understand something. She is she's still a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army Reserve. She's not a former or a retired. She is still a lieutenant colonel. She is in the United States Army Reserve, and she shouldn't be. As a matter of fact, one of the people who was giving her an extra scan, when you go through the checkpoint in the airport that you just normally walk through, and they give you your bags back and you put your shoes back
Right.
on. Well, she says now it's taking her 45 minutes to get through that. She said they wander like 5 times. They had somebody come through and open up her luggage and literally feel through the seams of her clothes and her bras and all of the personal items to make sure there was nothing in. I mean, it was the most invasive kind of search. And one of the guys who was doing the search said, "Wait a second, you're in the military? We shouldn't be doing this to you." She said, "Yeah, but I'm also in politics." And the guy said, "Oh, okay." And almost like, now I understand. This is not how, Bill, our government is supposed to be handling things like this. They're not supposed to be weaponizing certain things for their own benefit to act as punishment. She was a Democrat, and she left the party and became an independent.
Well, that's what she did wrong. She left that party, and they seek revenge on anybody that they think betrays them or turns their back on them. Oh, they're an enemy of the state, the democracy state, the democratic state. This is, I mean, when Kamala comes out, you may as well just raise up your right arm up high. I think it's the right arm the Nazis did, and go, Heil Kamala, Heil Waltz, because that's what we are headed to if you don't watch out.
By the way, I saw this, and I couldn't believe they did this. I thought to myself, could this have been photoshopped? But there was no reference in the article that I read online. It shows them in some kind of a classroom, or they're in some kind of an event, and they have flags, American flags on the wall, and they walk over to another wall, and it said, "Salute to the Revolutionary Communist Party." And she pointed to it and had Tim Waltz and her pose for a picture in front of that. And I thought, that cannot be a real picture. They can't be real. But, Bill, if you get a second, check and see whether you find the picture that I'm talking about.
I'll do that while we're talking here.
I mean, it was, I thought to myself, are they that dumb? Would they do something so obviously stupid to stand in front of a sign that glorifies communism? They looked at it like they were pointing to something that they could relate to. And by the way, I do think that they won't call themselves communists, but I think they're just about communist in every other way. The things that she stands for are just way out in left field. She makes Bernie Sanders look like a conservative. And she's done this historically. If you look at her record in California and how she treated the people of that great state, she talks about how tough she'd be on crime. She wasn't tough on crime, and she believed in defunding the police. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And this Tim Waltz guy. Yeah. All I have to do is say to myself, wait a second. He was that do-nothing governor from the riots, the guy who sent no help to Minneapolis, the guy who let one of his key cities burn, who let an almost new police station be destroyed. For what? For what reason? Yeah. I think his words were, "Let it go." Or something as simple as that. The governor of a state talking about a precinct saying, let it go.
Yeah, I am looking at the...
do you see the picture?
The Dilly Meme team. Dilly memes, they do memes, so it could be fake. Although, I will say this, the picture of Kamala in front of the table with the Revolutionary Communist of America...
Yeah.
She is casting a shadow under the table. So I I'm going to say it's probably a Photoshop because I am aware of the Dilly meme team.
I never
I'm
heard
not a
of them.
memer.
Yeah.
It's some they're actually pretty good with their stuff.
See, this is by the way, that's a very interesting thing, Bill. Is to come up. We are living in a world where you can't trust your own eyes anymore. We were talking before the show started. Bill was talking about Air Force Two when it was parked on a runway. Tell us what you were talking about.
Okay. Number one, you're probably seeing now. At first, everyone said, "Oh, it's photoshopped. It's photoshopped." But Snopes came out just like this picture I was looking at and said, "Oh, no, that's a real picture." But then they're going, "Yeah, as far as we can tell for the, this is a real picture. As far as they can tell, it's a real picture."
What was the picture?
Okay, the picture is Air Force Two sitting there, and there's two versions of it. There's two versions. One of, Kamala and Tim stepping just off the plane onto the steps, and, Tim with his left hand in the air. Hi, kids. That same stupid pose that he does all the time in the crowd down below. And then it pulls back, there's a picture of it pulled back. Well, they're not up top now. They're somewhere buried in the crowd. But here's the interesting thing, and I made the comment before, because they're saying, "Oh, no, it's a real photo. Oh, there were thousands of people there. Oh, maybe 15,000, and they were in the hangar." I'm like going, well, wait a minute. I don't know where the hangar is, and this crowd goes back way deep. Let's focus in on the plane. So I found the original shot, because the pixels are great to where you could see the reflections off the paint of the plane. Now, when you focus in, and you sit there and you look, well, there's people's heads in front of the plane engine, but there's no reflection of the heads. But there is a reflection of that tarmac right behind where the crowd is supposedly standing. And what you see back there is a terminal with planes parked. Where's the hangar?
All right, wait a second. The people weren't giving any reflections?
There's no reflections off the plane. You can check for yourself. You can find a good digital copy, just like I did. As a matter of fact, in a minute here, I'll text you the engine picture, and you tell me that you see any of those damn people in front of it, and those people supposedly go all the way back to a hangar, which apparently is not on the left side of the plane where they're getting off. Where you would get off. There is no door on the other side, friends.
We talked yesterday, Bill. Remember we were talking about how we saw a group shot at a rally, and when you zoomed in on the people in the picture, they weren't real people. They had two eyes. I mean, one eye in their forehead. They had no nose.
But they're saying that's real photo too. You can't find anybody that was actually there. Well, yeah, but that's a real photo. Okay.
Well.
Show me the proof, and I'll buy it. Now, I'm kind of quasi-buying. Okay, you say there's a crowd. They say, yeah, even Fox verifies there's a crowd. And there is footage shot from a hangar of people walking around. You see the plane in the background, but it's like a 5-second loop that keeps going over and over and over again, and it's boxed in to where you don't see the broad thing. Well, I'm not denying that there might not have been some people there, but what I'm saying is what they're showing is either a boxed in, cropped in thing. That crowd is layered. If you look at the picture, you can see the difference in color, like waves. When you're sitting there on the beach and looking at the waves, the tears, well, that doesn't happen in a photo picture where you have defined lines. And then when you have, you see a person's head, and then there's like this white halo around, just like it was a bad cut and paste, like. Well,
what's interesting? I saw then they're trying to go after Trump and saying that he's not getting the number of people at his rallies that he used to get, which is not true. As a matter of fact, one of them yesterday said, "Look at this Trump rally. He had to put up black cloth to cover up some of the seats." And if you look at the picture, so help me God, folks, this is true. They took such little time putting this picture together in this attack. You see the black bunting hanging from covering a section of seats, right? Yes, that is there. It's covering a section of seats. But then if you look at the people who you do see in the shot, they're holding Harris Waltz signs. Honest to God. They're not.
Yeah.
It's a Harris rally. It's like these people are so anxious to destroy Trump, they're taking pictures from their own rallies and trying to sell it as a picture of a Trump rally.
Well, they're doing everything they can, but I see the sycophants out there posting the pictures. They're going, ha ha, what do you think about that? Ha ha, I think you're an idiot, is what I think.
Do you know what
Don't
else?
respond to it. And if you've got a left friend that is posting that sewage, let them swim in their own stink and just sit there and snooze them, unfriend them. They're not your friend. They are an enemy. If they're trying to sell you that garbage, forget them.
I said the same thing to a friend of mine yesterday. She was talking about one of her, quote, friends from work who is a leftist, and she is always trying to cause an argument, always trying to instigate an argument with my friend. And she never has a rational answer to it's all emotion on the left. It's all emotion. If you ask them tell me why you feel this way. Why do you think Trump is this way? Why do you think he'll do this on the border? They haven't got a rock solid answer because they haven't thought it through enough. They seem to act on emotion more than anything else.
Feelings, nothing more than feelings.
But that's sad. It's sad, and I think your answer is probably the best thing, especially with only 2.5 months left to the election. I would say just snooze them. Just I'm not saying leave them as a friend, but don't allow them to communicate with you for a while. You don't need that kind of nonsense. You know.
I just texted you a picture. You see the crowd in front.
I see it. Yeah.
But you'll have that engine, and it's a very clear picture. You can blow it up, and you tell me that you see a reflection of the crowd in there. But what you do see is basically it looks like an empty blacktop going up to a building, and if you look real close, you can see the outlines of planes parked. So, and they even drew a map, and they show it in there on the explaining everything. Oh, this is where the plane was and all of that. And they show this plane, a 10-second clip of it going, but it's going the wrong direction of a crowd in a hangar. I'm just saying they're not, hey, you're here at the Harris rally. The plane just came in. That's Air Force Two. What do you think? Oh, yeah, it's great. Look at all the people. I didn't see any of that. I see comments of saying it was a fantastic
All right,
crowd.
and photoshopping aside, okay, if you are thinking about Harris as a possibility, ask yourself, why is it that Trump will get on an interview with Elon Musk with no holds barred, with no restrictions, say whatever you want to say and talk about whatever you want to talk about, and he'll do that for 2 hours and talk to the world to do that, right? And Kamala won't do an interview with anybody, won't take any questions from the press. It's been 3 weeks since she was made the nominee, and nothing, zero.
Hey, she went from zero. She went from -22 to beating Trump in 3 weeks. Now, even with all the money, and they've got $1 billion that they could spend, and they're spending it, and all the media behind her, and they are, Trump back in June sat there and said, you know what, I am not going to tax tips. And that's a great thing. And he's even talked about doing away with income tax. Kamala came out in July going, wow, we're not going to tax tips. We've never wanted to tax tips.
Oh.
And we want to raise the minimum wage. And all of a sudden the media is going, Kamala's got a great idea. No taxes on tips. Can you believe Kamala came up with this? She is a damn thief. Anything she's ever said she's done positive that she hasn't done, she stole.
Well, that's a key point. She is saying she's going to not tax tips. If you guys vote her in,
she won't.
She'll
won't do that.
She'll drop it like a hot potato. Believe me. Whereas Trump will do it. Trump will. He makes good on his promises.
She will raise your taxes. What was it I was hearing that they're doing? There was I forget what it's called, the something act, but either way, it's about benefits for veterans, and because I had read that they want to take benefits away from veterans and give it to the new undocumented immigrants. We'll call them that because that's what they want to call them.
Unbelievable.
All right. Well, now let's say I got a brother that got money for Agent Orange. He got cancer from it, and he's alive, doing well. He's had to go through treatments, and he didn't get that much money. All right.
Right.
But now this act, which was passed in 2021, brought forward by the Democrats, goes after these veterans. And now some veterans are paying back money that they got for these disability payments or anything like that. Oh, you got $20,000? You got to give it back because you were getting retirement or you were getting your social, you were getting your disability.
They got to pay it back.
Look it up. They got to pay it back.
Unbelievable.
They're taking that money so they can give it to the illegals. That's what you're voting for. So if you're a veteran, take your time, look it up. I'll try to remember it because I don't have it now, but it was. I'll even try to look it up when we're playing a piece of audio. The name of the act, but then you look forward to veterans, because it was just in the news yesterday, are having to pay back some of these things for, you got Agent Orange. Remember when that was a big deal? Well, now they want the money back.
There's a long story I could tell you. I'll tell you some other time about Agent Orange.
I know all about it.
Well, I could take you one step beyond that. Let's just leave it at that.
Pits and everything. Yeah, I know.
I have but I do want to point out that if you vote for Kamala and Walz, right, Harris and Walz, you are going to get Biden's policies on steroids. See, they didn't pick Harris because she's a great political thinker and a qualified administrator. They picked her because she will do exactly what the people behind the curtain, want her to do. They will do exactly as told. And that's what they want to continue. They have realized that they can exercise a great deal of power when they have a puppet in the position of the presidency. And that's what they have with Biden right now. I mean, did you see the pictures? Do you know where we are on the verge at this very minute of a major war in the Middle East? I'm not talking about another skirmish. I'm talking about a no-holds-barred, full-bore war in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. And do you know where our commander-in-chief was on Saturday and Sunday? He was at the beach in Delaware, sitting in his lawn chair, getting a few Z's, just relaxing, chilling out, reading magazines, and ignoring the rest of the world. The world be damned. This is a guy who, if he was a real, honest-to-God commander-in-chief, and the world was teetering on such a razor's edge right now, he would have been in the Situation Room working with his staff, trying to figure out a way to stop all this nonsense. By the way, I don't know whether you've seen this or not, but right now we have got more warships in the Middle East than I think we ever have had. And by the way, if we are ever attacked, if those ships are ever attacked and sunk, much of our Navy will be destroyed because it's all been put over in that region.
Like a Pearl Harbor.
It's like I look at the map yesterday. I could not believe that these great military minds would take so much of what we have and sequester it in one location. You know, we are putting ourselves at risk. Now that we're doing this to show our support of Israel, maybe as a show of strength, but if the other side, you don't need to have a fleet of airplanes to take out a carrier anymore. All you need is a well-placed cruise missile or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever. And you can take down a ship in no time. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking. Maybe they just want a full-bore war, as I would say, I've said before. But it doesn't
Well, who
make
benefits from a war? Who benefits from a
well,
war?
the military-industrial complex will benefit.
There you go. I remember a while back, my son's a statey now, but when the military was looking at him and talking to a recruiter for the Navy, I said, well, Navy is a good place to go. But we were talking about the ships. And, these ships retire, long before the loans are ever paid off on them. But we don't care about that as a country, the military-industrial complex. All they care about is they sell a new ship, because let's say that you've got a $20 billion ship. That's good for 5 years. And then they're going, well, got to upgrade. We're still paying the note on that thing, because that note goes past your lifetime, Jim, past my lifetime.
Yeah.
And we've got the biggest arsenal in the world, but they don't make any money when they sold that ship. It's like a car salesman. I got to sell another new car.
You know what their attitude is? We're never broke because we print the money. That's basically their attitude. Don't worry about it. We'll pay it off. We hold the note. As a matter of fact, if they wanted to, they could relieve you of that note. They could just cancel the note altogether, because it's their money and they're the bank too. They're the lender and the person who's taking out the loan. It's amazing. I think we are, if this guy were a real commander-in-chief, if Biden really were what he says he is, he'd be working day and night to make our country safe and to stop this war from happening. Any guy who can go to the beach for the weekend, to hell with it, it speaks volumes as to what he really does. And I'm awfully glad he's not running again, because he was useless this past 4 years. And look what he did to the border. I mean, I just point to the border. Look what he did to Afghanistan. Afghanistan, a war that Trump would have gotten us out with respectfully. He would have done it in a orderly fashion. We would have left with all of our toys. We wouldn't have left $89 billion worth of stuff for the Taliban to sell. By the way, they're the, first or second biggest arms dealer now in the world, because of all the stuff they're selling that they got from us.
Of course.
Absolutely amazing. So I don't know. I think that, and you get Carmela in there, and no, she won't be going to the beach in Delaware, but she'll be going to the beach somewhere. She'll be taking orders from Barack or whoever they take orders from. And I don't think, by the way, Barack is the final person. I think there are people deep in the state who send their instructions to Barack too, and Barack then sends them along to the president.
Well, there's an old line that says, and you've heard it before, they've used it, follow the money. You follow the money, and you're going to find out who really holds the purse strings, who really controls the Pelosi's, the Schumers, the Obamas, the Clintons, the Kamala Harris trio, and Waltz. You'll find out who's really in charge. It ain't you and me, the people. It's not even them. They just work for them. They made their deal with the devil, and the devil is the money. And that's all there is to it.
The devil isn't only striking us here in the United States. It's also attacking our allies in Europe. I mean, it's a shame. Look at what happened in France during the Olympics, the opening ceremonies, how disgusting they were, and they flaunted all this debauchery and all of this crap that had nothing to do with the Olympics. And by the way, one other thing I want to point out before speaking of crap, do you know they held some of the water Olympics in the Seine River, which is the river that goes next to the Notre Dame Cathedral. And it has been a historic river for centuries. Unfortunately, it was used for centuries as a sewerage system for the city of France, unbeknownst, obviously, to the people who ran the Olympics, because the people who were swimming in the events in the Seine were either getting sick or had problems with that water to a point where they had to stop some of the events, from what I understand, from being held in the Seine River. You would have thought they would have figured this one out before they ever started the Olympics, but during the Olympics they found that out. And I've been on the Seine. It's a beautiful, picturesque place. If you've seen movies like Charade, with Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant, there's a nice scene where they're walking along next to the Seine, and the Cathedral of Notre Dame is behind them. It is a fantastically, beautifully picturesque location, but it's also polluted.
That's nice to know.
It is. I wouldn't go recreational swimming in the Seine River, but they did. They had some Olympic matches held in it, and they found out the hard way it was not a good idea. But anyway, I was pointing out that there's a lot of corrupt people in Europe too, and they're in England of all places. Now you would think that England is separated by water, that they haven't got the illegal problem. Apparently, that's not the case. Apparently, a lot of illegals are coming across by boat. There's a whole system in place where these people are being dropped off on shore, and coming into England, and they've got cities now that were once English cities that are now overrun by illegals, and to a point where there's some places have more illegals than English people in it.
So, are we replacing the population? Are we replacing a race? Or are we homogenizing the world?
Well, what they couldn't do in the Crusades, they're going to do it in the 21st century, and they'll do it they'll do it in the Crusades. The Christians from these different countries were sent to fight.
Knights Templar.
They were sent out to fight the Islamists, and to keep them from invading Spain and France and stuff like that. And to a certain extent, they were successful. Well, they don't have to fight anymore. They just let them in as illegals, and they take over the cities internally. That's what's happening. Say what you want. It's not a matter of conjecture. It's a matter of fact. I'm going to play a little cut here from Nigel Farage. He's a very outspoken, very patriotic Englishman, a guy who loves his country, a guy who is a friend of the United States, and he knows a lot about our history and a lot about English history, and the perfect guy to tell us what's going on. Listen.
This is the most serious violence we've had since the Black Lives Matter protests in the wake, of course, of the murder of George Floyd back in 2020. Funny enough, Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, at the time of the Black Lives Matter riots, when police were being injured, when historical monuments were being torn down, he chose to take the knee in solidarity with the aims of those who were out doing the protesting and causing the violence. But now the boot's on the other foot. Now it's seen to be white, working class British people that are protesting. And by the way, I'm not defending violence in any way at all. No, now he wants to take control of the narrative. Now look, nobody should use any social media platform to genuinely spread hate or incitement to violence. And that free speech rule, I think all of us would support and agree with. But what we are allowed to do on social media, or should be allowed to do, is to speculate, is to ask questions, is to try and put facts out that wake up the rest of the community. And when you're engaged in something like that, you can never ever guarantee that what you say is 100% true. You may think it's true at the time. You may ask a question whether it's true. Now, Starmer, by cracking down on that, poses, I think, the biggest threat to free speech we've seen in our history. And Elon Musk has caught wind of this. See, I think the reason Musk has been going for Starmer over the last week is he knows what the reaction is going to be. And can I just add, worse still, there is a proposal today that from the age of 5 years old, our kids in schools should be taught to spot extremism, to spot fake news and misinformation, and to use their powers of critical thinking to work out what's true and what's not. Now, by the way, I believe in critical thinking. However, if the parameters that are set are to say to every kid, if you read a post that questions net zero and global warming, it will be extreme content and a lie. If you read a post that even dares to question levels of immigration, legal or illegal, into Britain, that's extremist, then you start to set a narrative for a future generation that is fundamentally undemocratic. So I am very worried that the instincts of a left-wing Labour Party are to use this crisis to take away our liberties and our free speech. And this is going to have to be fought.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why I think this is incredibly dangerous. And it reminds me of what was happening here in America right after the 2020 election, where people were speculating and asking questions. If you are afraid that you're going to get arrested just because you're asking questions, well, your freedom of speech is gone. Nigel, let me ask you, for you personally, are you concerned that any statements you make could get you arrested?
Yes, I mean, after the triple murder of those poor, sweet little girls, a few hours went by, and there was huge speculation online about this man. Was he an illegal immigrant? Was he an Islamist? And no one knew the truth. And I simply asked on X, did this man have a record? Is he somebody that the security services were watching? Answer there came none. Then after the riots happened, you've got the whole establishment saying that I encouraged rioting. Well, I mean, all I did was to say, please tell us the truth. Funnily enough, if they had told us the truth, the rioting would not have been anything like as bad as it was, and the authorities need to wake up to an online world. So yes, I am currently coming under a serious assault, and many of the campaigners on the left are publicly saying that I should be arrested simply for asking to know the truth about the murderer. I'm worried.
Yes, and that is why Elon Musk tweeted out, "You're blocked from X." I mean, I don't know if it was the proper handle that he put on there. He said to the UK government, "You're blocked because we have our own rules here on X." And, you know, in America, we saw this take place after COVID. A lot of people questioned whether or not they wanted to get the vaccine, and the left comes up with these pejoratives, and suddenly you're canceled or you're ridiculed in the public square. If you know you're an anti-vaxxer, you're an election denier, these pejoratives, and all of a sudden you are shamed on the public square. This is very dangerous. Where is this going in the UK?
Yeah, and I mean, Facebook are far worse. I mean, a lot of people, I'll put posts out on Facebook, factual posts about information I've discovered about, for example, the numbers crossing the English Channel by small boat, and people who like my Facebook posts get their accounts suspended. So it's quite sinister the way in which it's happening. And the big one for us was lockdown. You know, 3 times we had a national lockdown due to COVID, and I have to tell you, by lockdowns 2 and 3, I was absolutely contemptuous of the whole thing, and I was saying, hey, look at what Florida are doing, look at what Sweden are doing. But literally, if you question lockdowns, if you said this is government taking excessive freedoms from us, you would find your Facebook account suspended for a period of time. And that's the problem here. Yeah. You know, we may be talking in the wake of some pretty ugly, violent riots. But if that is used as an excuse for government and big social media companies to close down debates that they find inconvenient, then what price democracy?
Unbelievable. And especially since after months later, we found out that everything that people questioned were actually true. Yes, if you had COVID before, you had antibodies, and it was enough of a protection. You didn't need to get another vaccine or a booster. And yes, there were side effects of the vaccine. So all of these things we learned later, and yet the people who first said it were punished. Nigel, we'll be watching your work. We so appreciate your time this morning, and please come back soon. Thank you, sir.
You know, one of the things that was said last night in the interview with Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they were talking about illegals, and Trump and Elon both agreed it's not that they're against people from other countries coming to the United States, and they're not against the Islam faith. The faith itself is they're not. See, what they're against are illegals that are extremists, When I say extremist, that puts him into a different category than just your normal practitioner of the faith.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's millions of people in this world who practice the Muslim faith, and they do so peacefully and honorably and with love, okay? And then
so somebody that would misalign that message would be an extremist themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And the problem is, what Biden has done, and they both were in agreement last night, what Biden has done is he's allowed a massive flood of corrupt extremists to come across our southern border. And now, unfortunately, they're in our country. They're here. They're right down the street. They're walking amongst us. And it's because of the inaction or the intentional actions of Joe Biden. He intentionally allowed this to happen. And he can say what he wants to say, but he has destroyed him. And by the way, Trump did double down on he's going to send them back. He's going to send them home. He didn't say that he was going to think about sending them home or he was going to consider sending them home. He said they're going back.
Right.
And I'm sorry. And even, by the way, Elon Musk, who I think he was an immigrant into our country from South Africa. But he legally, these are people who came and did it the way it was supposed to be done. And Trump has said, they can go home and come back and do it the proper way, but a country doesn't exist without borders. And I think that people have said, well, how is he going to maneuver this 20 million illegals in our country? Well, it's like J.D. Vance said the other day, you start with 1 million, the first 1 million. How do you do that? And then when that works, you just keep going. And a lot of them they'll remove themselves from the country if they can't get it work. If you say to our businesses in this country, if you are caught employing illegals in your workforce, you're going to suffer incredible penalties for doing so, maybe criminal penalties for doing so. You make it so that it's such such a terrible thing for a business to do that they won't offer these illegals jobs, and they'll have to go home. And then you say, what I would do if I were the government, I'd say, look, I talked about this yesterday, and I know you said, I was being too generous, but I would say to the illegals, look, we're going to give you a ticket and a few bucks to put in your pocket if you get on the plane this month, if you book to go home now. If you don't book to go home now, in a month from now, all benefits to you and all monies for room and board will cease, and things will
we have to vet them, and maybe we make conditions that this is how you can be accepted, and maybe we have transitional visa stations where they can sit there and go in and they apply. And that gives a little, we either reject right away because we know these people are bad and they get out of here. And then the people that are here legitimately are acceptable, they get a transitional form.
I don't know. You froze for a second, but I don't know. I know where you were going with that. I don't know whether any kind of transitional agreement with these people is such a good idea.
Well, you can't give them benefits. They want to sit there and give them voter rights and job rights and everything. And when you come here, you have the right to work and you have the right to assimilate into the country and then vote. But you have to learn our ways and our laws and adopt our ways.
Yeah, but if you come here illegally, you've committed a major crime getting here.
Well, I guess the argument that I would have is that these people came here illegally by, as you and I say it, but with Kamala and Biden, they just willy-nilly opened the door. Come on in. Yeah, come on. We got just vote.
Well,
That's all you got to do.
They never withdrew the law. They never changed the law. They just opened the door. So,
yes.
yeah. They opened the door.
So who's guilty? Who's guilty?
Well, they both are. They both are. The person who committed the crime by coming across and entering illegally, and our government.
The bigger guilt goes to Kamala and Joe, our government.
Well, you know what we should do?
They have to
vote them out.
Yeah. Vote them out, and then we got it. That's rule number one. Rule number two, I'm sure that, look, they know that they got in by a wing and a prayer and not a prayer at all. It was I have an analogy.
I agree with exactly what you're going to say, and I think everybody listening for the most part to this program probably agrees too that it wasn't a fair and above board election in 2020, but that's
I didn't say that, and I didn't imply it. But if you think
it's our show, and we can say what we want to say. So,
if you interpreted that, I'm not going to argue with you.
But I think that Trump and Elon Musk last night might have been a game changer for this election. I'm not the only one that thinks this. I was listening to a morning show this morning.
Gee, I think I know which one.
and the host said, "No, it's a game changer. This was a big night. Last night was it moved the whole campaign to a new level."
Well, my question is, there was a lot of material there. There was, and I've heard say about it, and with electronic cars and things to do and not do. And I know Trump had an idea, and Elon liked the idea, and it could come about. In other words, there was a lot of information to disseminate. And I'm sure somebody's sitting there cutting it down into sound bites and whatnot. But who's going to get that out there? CBS is not going to do it. ABC is not going to do it. NBC is not going to do it. And CNN's not going to do it. So that leaves it up to Fox, which I'll tell you what, sometimes Fox is good, sometimes they're bad, but the lefties don't like Fox. So Fox, just pull your head out of the sand.
But you know what, though, Bill? I know what you're saying, but
you're not going to be liberal. They're not going to accept you.
But the thing is, last night, X proved its power. X. I mean, people say, what do you mean? No. They had millions of people, and I was going to point this out before, and I forgot. They are going to post the entire interview online for anybody to listen to at their convenience. And more people will listen to it now than listen to it when it was live. So if they had 20 million people listening around the world last night, I'll bet you by this time tomorrow there will be 60 million will have listened to it on the the recording. People will listen to it at their leisure and hear the whole thing.
Now, this has been in the works for a long time, and everybody has known about it. I mean, it's been going on for a long time. NBC said, we're going to do something the first of its kind ever event. They announced Democracy 2024, where I guess they are going to do they're going to do some kind of event that you won't see on, regular TV and stuff. It's going to be some kind of weird online on-stage event where all the hosts, all the lefties are all going to be there. And it's going to be a Kamala fest because no one else is going to be invited.
Wait, are the candidates going to be there?
No, it's you can come see all of the, I'm looking at it right now. If you look up Democracy 2024,
if these had just leftist pundits talking about politics, it should go over like a lead balloon.
But they're gonna lie about it, and this is going to be probably their answer to Elon Musk to say, there you go, there's our beer, and it's going to be near beer. It's not going to be beer. I can tell you that. But this is, we thought of it first. It's kind of like Kamala with the tax thing. Yeah. They copycat everything, and
they have no shame, Bill. They really do. They have no shame at all.
And they'll try to make it an event to where, what would Musk have, 11 million? We'll have 50 million people.
Yes. It reminds me of Dr. Evil when he goes, $1 million. And the guy says $1 million isn't a lot nowadays. Oh, $100 billion. I mean,
there you go.
They are.
And that's not a lot these days.
No. Before we wrap this up today, I wanted to play Michael Whatley is the co-chair of the Republican Party. And he was addressing on one of the talk shows over the weekend. election integrity and what the Republican Party is trying to do to shore things up. It's only a quick cut. Listen.
The second component for election integrity is you got to be in the room. We announced when Laura Trump and I took over at the RNC 4 months ago that we were going to recruit over 100,000 volunteers into our national program, our Protect the Vote program. Happy to say that we've already got 157,000 volunteers who've registered for that program. We're going to continue to push for the next 87 days to make sure that we have the biggest, most robust national election integrity program in the history of the country.
But you know what? I keep thinking about that, and I think about Philadelphia in 2020. They actually threw out the observers. Do you remember when they closed the place up? They threw the observers out. I'm thinking, what kind of integrity is that?
Well, that's their democracy. The Democrats always say, our democracy, your democracy. Hitler had his own democracy of sorts. Stalin had his own democracy. So when Democrats vote blue straight up and down, that will preserve democracy. That will preserve what you call democracy. And most other nations of the world would say socialism, communism, Marxism, one-party system, one-party rule. That's what you want.
I'll tell you, boy, we're sliding towards that right now. We are we
got 1 foot in.
We with our eyes closed, we are just sliding into it. And these people, I'm sorry, the people on the left, especially the candidates on the left, they're socialists. I mean, I dare say I would call them communists. I'm old school. They're communist, and they believe in much of what the Communist Party believed in. You know, everything evolves around the state. And we live for the state. Things like religion, things like family values, things like respect for the police, all things like that will be tossed out the window if we end up going in that direction. And look, people may say, well, Trump he's so difficult to deal with. He's so bombastic. Listen, I'm not voting for a priest or a reverend. I'm voting for a president. I'm voting for a guy who's going to get up there and carry him. He always carried himself with dignity in that position, and he always stood tall. You know, he made people on the world stage respect him, and that's all I care about. And he's only going to be there for one term, and after that, well, it's up to us. You know, and I think what's going to happen is he's going to do such a good job that the person like J.D. Vance might be a success, or maybe a Ron DeSantis, or maybe Vivek Ramaswamy, or someone like that.
I will say this about J.D. Vance. I mean, in his interviews over the weekend, where he went from one studio to the next, he learned pretty quick in how to do a debate and command the interview. Yeah. He did a damn good job, and if he keeps doing that, he's only going to get his skills better, because a lot of these journalists got their degrees from a box of Cracker Jacks. So if you're going to be in politics, especially conservative politics, go get schooled a little bit on a debate team. Take a page from Ted Cruz. He's a great debater.
Hey, one other thing before we wrap this up. Dan Goldman is a leftist loon. I'm sorry, he just is. He was on Special Report with Brett Baer, and he made some comments, and Brett Baer surprisingly countered what he said. Listen.
If I'm Donald Trump, I understand why he doesn't want to debate. Kamala Harris is
he's accepted 3.
Prosecutor.
He said yes to September 4th, September 10th, September 17th. He said yes to a lot of them. So it's not that he's obviously afraid to debate.
No. So no. He had agreed to September 10th. Well, on ABC.
With Biden, who got pushed out.
What's the difference? Why should he not debate whoever the candidate is on September 10th as he agreed to? What is the difference between candidate Biden and candidate Harris?
He said he would do it. I'm just saying he's also agreed to other debates. You said he hasn't agreed to others. He has. It's the Kamala Harris campaign that hasn't agreed on the other side.
Understand that Goldman is not misinformed. He's just a liar. okay? If you say something long enough and hard enough, it becomes reality. If he can convince people who are watching that Donald Trump doesn't want to debate, then he succeeds. The fact of the matter is, Trump has never said he wouldn't debate. Never. As a matter of fact, he said yes to that September 10th debate, and he offered 2 others that she won't do.
Look, the old rule is don't back down. It doesn't matter what you're selling, whether you're selling the truth, you're selling a lie, don't back down. And bravo for Brett Baer to say, whoa, he agreed, which he did.
Yeah.
And the guy wasn't ready for, he backed down because he wasn't ready to get opposition. And that's what you have to do with the Democrats. You might want to sit there, look, every Democrat has the same talking point because they get it off the internet. The DNC is good about that. Maybe the RNC ought to give its troops the ammunition, the talking points with the backup, make them bullet points, and enough to where you can say, hey, look, this is this. If you want to find out more, here's where to go. Shut them up.
Yeah.
Because they will sit there, they'll spew a lie, and then when you say, well, but, they'll tell the same lie again because they've got no substance to their rhetoric. Hold their feet to the fire.
I was listening to Jeff Van Drew. He's a representative from New Jersey. He was a Democrat until 2020, and finally he switched to the Republican Party. And he was on one of the talk shows over the week, and they asked him about the switch. He said, I didn't leave the Democrat. It's the old line, but it's so true. He said it's like what happened to Ronald Reagan and others. He didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left him. Donald Trump was a Democrat. People don't know that. I was a Democrat. And by the way, I don't think that the Republican Party per se, as a whole, should be trusted. No. Much of them are rhinos, and those people will stab you in the back, too. You have to be very selective about your political feelings and who you talk with and who you deal with. You really do. And by the way, this leads me to one more point. Be careful what you listen to on the internet. Be careful what you think is being truthful. Some of these podcasts, they're not above board. They will give you false information, and they'll do so under the guise of truthfulness. And my God, that's terrible. Bill and I sit here every day. We take the news stories that come across the wire, and we comment on them. That's what we do. And you can make your own opinion. You can say, well, he's full of baloney, or, well, that's a pretty good idea. Whatever you want to do is fine with us. But there are some people out there who will sell you a total lie. Am I right, Bill? There are some people who do podcasts, and they do it, and you think, my God, these guys are so, they're down with us. They're down with our cause. They're not.
Yeah. You know what happens to a used car salesman when he dies?
What?
He becomes a Democrat.
I thought you were going to say they give him a podcast.
No. I'm saying he's reincarnated as a Democrat, because they're used car salesmen. They're hey, how about this beauty right here? You know what? And this is a classic car here. You're going to love it.
It's like finally, God bless the minority community in our country. A lot of them are starting to really wake up, and I hear interviews with them all the time. It's for the longest time, people have taken the minority segment of our society for granted. Like, well, if we just promise them this, and this, they'll come with us because we're this, Well, people are people. And maybe it's because of communications and everybody has a device nowadays, a cell phone, and they can think for themselves. And so many of them, I saw a thing with Muhammad Ali's widow. Mm-hmm. She's a Trump supporter. She's a adamant Trump supporter. She says, I don't care who knows I'm a Trump supporter. She says, I wear my Trump hat at least once a day, and I don't care what people think at all. She said, I believe in what he believes in. And this is an idea. This is what's happening, I think, throughout the minority community. People say
that's the key.
Yeah,
they believe in what he believes in, and they're seeing, and bravo for them. They're seeing beyond racial barriers and colors, and going, the values are what we agree with. And look, there's an old line: once a racist, always a racist. I don't exactly agree with that. It's just because then that's saying, once a sinner, always a sinner. Well, I guess that's true, but then that means you'll never be a Christian. I'm sorry, but people can sit there and have a reckoning and a come to Jesus moment. And so people that you might have thought were racist, well, maybe they're not racist. Maybe they were misunderstood, or maybe you both kind of met in the middle, and we all have differences, but we're all God's children. So forget the race crap. What are your morals? What are your principles? Whatever man or woman stands there with those morals and principles, and you agree with them, then walk proudly with them.
And also, a lot of these minority people are looking around and saying, wait a second, I've been promised X, Y, and Z from this party for decades, and I've gotten nothing but promises. I've gotten nothing has happened to actually benefit me and my family. Why not go in another direction? Why not look at someone like Trump? Was my life better in the 4 years that Trump was president? Most people will say yes. I paid less for food. I paid less for fuel. I paid less for my housing. Everything was a little easier for me and my family. I had a few bucks in my pocket. Now I'm wondering whether I should pay for my rent or my food. I have to make a choice. Do I want this with Kamala and Timmy? Hey, anyway, I think we should wrap it up now, my friend, because I look at the clock on the wall, and it's telling us it's time for us to go. But with a little bit of luck, we'll come back and do it again tomorrow. Our email not our email address. Our website address is www.itsanotherday.com or www.jimandbill.com. And you can go there and you can get our email address and you can contact us. You can get our phone number if you want to call us and you say hello. Or you can also look at our past programs. They're all there. I should point out that today is our 700th, that's right, numbered show. Now, I say numbered because we have about, 150 that weren't numbered. They were weekend shows initially that we didn't number. We've got like 850 shows out there. You would think, don't these guys have other things to do? I mean, it's amazing, but we're still cranking them out, thank goodness. In December, with a little bit of luck, we'll celebrate 3 years of doing this.
Yeah. Well, the women in our life said, why don't you get out of it? Just go downstairs and do a podcast. Get out of here.
Exactly. Anything you want to add, sir, before we wrap this up?
No, I just can't wait for the day when I get to hear Kamala and Tim Walz together jump on their jalopy bus and go, hasta la vista, baby, we're out of here!
This is CRN America.